is called to order. If you will stand, by tradition, we have the invocation, and I've asked Mr. Mason if he would lead us in prayer, and after which I'll ask Mr. Locke to lead us in the pledge.
Please bow. Dear Lord, we thank you for another beautiful day in our great town of Bastrop. We pray that you will be with our leaders of this community. You will help us all to make wise decisions. We pray for the best of this community as always. Pray that you'll be with each and every person here tonight as well as their families. We pray that we'll all get us home safe and sound and we make the right decisions here tonight. For it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. You stand. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, and I wish to express my sincere appreciation for your being here for this meeting. At this time, Ms. Goldman, roll call.
Mr. Moore.
Present.
Mr. Johnson.
Present.
Mr. Nason.
Here.
Mr. Armstrong.
Here.
Mr. Locke.
here.
All present, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm going to take things out of order a little bit. I know that number 3, we have announcements, but I'm going to move on to number 4 and ask for a motion on approval of our regular meeting for July 9, 2009.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mayor.
Motion and second. Any questions, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Special meeting, July 30th, 2009. At this time, I will entertain a motion for the approval of the...
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
Motioned. Second.
Second.
Any questions? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I would like to recognize our DA and all of the supporting people with the truancy. We are working on addressing a problem for truancy and supporting our school system. And I'm going to ask Mr. Thrower if he would stand up and be recognized, and I'm going to ask our DA to speak to the issue, and after which I'll ask Mr. Thrower. But I know that our DA has to be somewhere else.
I would like for Mr. Thrower to join me as
Okay,
soon as he
that would
can,
be good.
because
Mr. Jones.
he knows as much, if not more, about it than I do. We are presently we have in place a truancy program in Morehouse Parish. And it has been in existence for 1 year. We put it together last year, and I think we're having success with it. And we had a meeting, Mayor, a couple of weeks ago, in which we, and by we, I mean all people involved with juvenile justice and the city, met in order to discuss what we can do about truants in this parish. As you know, if we don't have them in school, we're going to lose them. I mean, that's almost 100% guaranteed. But if we can take these youngsters that are missing school and get them to school, I think that we will decrease the juvenile crime problems that we're having in the city, because a child that's not in school is a child that's apt to get in trouble. Mm-hmm. So this is what we're trying to do, is simply get children to come to school. And there are many tools that we can use to do that. And it's my understanding that I'm not going to call it burden, but the truancy problem is going to be spread out from just the district court to include the city court. So what I mean by that is that the city court will hear some truancy cases, as will the district court. Now, I will provide the prosecutors for that, so there's be no cost to the city in prosecuting or bringing to the court's attention the truant and the truant's parents. Now, Mr. Thrower is the one who brought this to my attention, I believe, Tom, last year, when he said he wanted to put together a truancy program similar to the one that we had going in Ouachita Parish. Let me speak statistics in Washita Parish because I know those a lot better than I know the statistics here. But in Washita Parish, the year we started the truancy program, we had 7,500 truants. That's a lot of folks. That's a lot of missed school days, and that's a lot of opportunity to get in trouble. I believe that if we reduce truancy, we will reduce juvenile crime. If we reduce juvenile crime, it makes common sense that therefore we will reduce adult crime. And that's what we're trying to do. We have requested the mayor, and I'll bring this out, to add to the program that we have now, which is staffed by officers from the Morehouse Parish Sheriff Department, a police. The school board will pay a significant percentage of the police officer's salary. Now let do things, and that's send kids to
deal with. We'd rather have school and get them trained, get them educated where they can be productive citizens. Currently, we have 2 truancy officers. We just added another one. We had 1 last year. We have 2 now. The school board's funding 1 1/2 of those positions. We've had conversations with the mayor, and we have it on our agenda at our school board tonight to ask for if you'll do that funding scenario, because we really would like to get this other person on board. If you agree and vote to do that, then I'll take it to our board because, you know, they have to give the okay too, but we'll do that and have it on our committee meeting for the 25th, and then hopefully if the board approves it, then we'll go with our board meeting. Regular board meeting is on September the 3rd, on a Thursday of September. So what we want to do is, you know, truancy is a community problem. It's not just a school problem. It's not a parent problem. It's not a police problem. It's all of our problem. And we all have to work together. You know, we talk about I'm for the kids, I want to help. Well, you know, if they're not, you know, the first thing to do is get them in school. If they're not in school, we can't educate them. And we want to do our part. And if they're not there, we can't do that. So we're here to ask you, Mr. Jones and I, D.A. Jones and I are here to ask if you would consider this proposal. And if you can and approve it, then I'll take it to our board. And I feel like they'll be for it. You know, they realize they want to increase the graduation rate. And they don't want truancy, but it's not just our problem. It's a community problem. So this is what we're asking tonight.
Thank you so much for that
couple
presentation.
more statements by me.
Sure.
We, as anyone involved with the school board knows, we take lots of Morehouse Parish kids each year to visit Angola. And it's not a scare tactic. It's an educational tool that we use to show the kids what's at the end of the road, and it's 18,000 acres of penitentiary farm. But we were talking to, one day, one of the most famous prisoners in the history of Louisiana, Wilbur Rideau, who had been in prison since 1963 and taught himself to read while on death row and write, of course. And he became the editor of the Angolite, eventually world recognized as an editor and writer, not only on crime issues, but on other issues involving the public. And he was nominated for an Oscar, so quite an inmate. But we asked him, what is the one thing, in your opinion, that keeps children, kids, young people, out of the penitentiary? And he said, an education. He said, there are no people in this penitentiary with a college degree. Very few with a high school degree. And the problems that we're having that are increasing the number of inmates that we have, both in city jail, the sheriff's jail, and the penitentiary, is drugs. And when they're on the street and not in school, that's what they're into. So all that we're asking of you is to cooperate with the school board and with the court. Judge Marchman could not be here, and she's fully on board with this. and fully on board with sharing the responsibility of truancy with the city court. All we ask you to do is share in the cost of one policeman, and I think it will pay dividends. I think the new chief of police will have less people to deal with if we have that one truancy officer out there doing the work, and I think this parish will have less people to pay for in the jail back there if they support this program. It makes common sense. So I ask you, as your district attorney, to approve this. It's not a lot of money, and the rewards are tremendous. Can I mention one other thing, Mayor, while I'm here?
Certainly.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. But we are presently have before the government a grant application for mentors. And it will be centered out of Ouachita Parish, but I will see to it that it includes Morehouse Parish. I have found that a lot of most of these young truants and most of the young people that we see coming through the court system are male. That's reality. Okay, I can give you the numbers. We have in excess of 2,000 people in the 4th District in the penitentiary each day. Of those, we have 78 females. That's a number that speaks for itself. So what I'm asking you to do is just consider the fact that one day we want to use this forum as a way to launch our mentoring program in the event that funding comes our way from Monroe. To have a mentor is to have someone to take a child and teach that child and lead that child. But that mentor must be taught. Mentors must be screened. You know, you just can't give anyone a child and say take and go do things with it. And the mentor must be taught things that need to be done to these children. So that's a program that we may be coming to you simply for support only, no money, just simply for your support one day. And I thought I would bring that to your attention today, as I did at the meeting that we held recently. And by the way, the first meeting I've held like this in 19 years as DA. So thank you, Mayor, for your leadership. And
Thank you.
Thank you all.
thank all of you.
Also, with our DA and superintendent, we have some supporters and advocates for truancy, and I'd like to recognize Mr. Ralph Davenport, Child Welfare and Supervisor from Ouachita Parish School System, Ms. Linda Logan, Community Interest Person, Dee Henshaw with Even Start Family Literacy, and also everyone who attended the meeting for truancy. Would you stand up and be recognized? We had a meeting a few weeks ago. I think we have fins, various programs. We had a meeting and we had almost 30 people in attendance. This is a situation we want to get in front of because truancy goes to the heart of producing a workforce. So thank you so much, and we are looking forward to working with you. Our next item on the agenda, announcements. I skipped announcements to give the courtesy to our DA and superintendent, and at this time, if anyone would like to be excused, I'll pause for a few minutes and give you that opportunity to gracefully be excused. And thank you so much for coming. Announcements. We're looking forward to our governor's visit tomorrow, and we certainly want to show our support and our appreciation for his coming to the city of Bastrop on behalf of Morehouse Parish. Also, I want to compliment all of the employees and everyone who made the event for the monument possible. And if you see a city employee, please remember to thank them because they really worked hard on the front appearances. I received an executive summary from Mr. Ed B. on Tire America, and he will be making a visit here very soon, and I will give you information on that announcement. Item number, did we do the approval of the minutes? We did. Okay. Item number 6, we have a special presentation from the Inaugural Committee, And at this time, I'm going to ask the committee, all of whom are present, to come and make this presentation. And the spokesperson will come to the mic and state her name on behalf of the entire committee. State your name.
Good evening, Mayor and
Thank you.
council members. My name is Debbie Rogers. With me, I have Dee Henshaw, Ruby Pye, Diane Lenore, and this is Kay King. And on behalf of the Inaugural Committee, we'd like to present this check to Medco, and representing Medco is Ms. Kay King.
Well, this is quite a surprise. And I'd just like to say on behalf of Medco that, you know, we have a lot of projects that we're currently working on, and money, as everyone understands, is always tight, and I appreciate this. This will certainly go a long way in covering expenses sometimes that I might not have budgeted for the year, so this is kind of an extra bonus, and we appreciate the support, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness of this group. Did you want to say how much?
Yeah.
$2,221.09, and I will try to put it to very good use.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This is the money that was left over from the inauguration, and we certainly wanted to put it to good use, and I want to thank these ladies, some of whom are unable to be here, but they worked very hard, and thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. I owe you a lifetime debt.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, item number 7, Finance Committee Report, Resolution 091297, bills, claims for the month of July 2009. Mr. Roy Armstrong.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution 091297.
The motion. The second.
I second the motion.
Any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, ordinance 094192, an ordinance authorizing the borrowing by the City of Bastrop, State of Louisiana, of $1,500,000 by the issuance of its Revenue Anticipation Note Series 2009, providing for the payment thereof, providing with respect to the rate of interest thereon, providing for a pledge and dedication of taxes and other revenues of said for the city, securities, payment thereof in principal and interest, and other matter in connection therewith. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Dixon, who is standing in for Mr. Bill Bowles and Steve Nasaka, to speak to this issue.
Madam Mayor, Councilman, before you tonight for consideration is an ordinance approving the issuance of a bond, borrowing money, if you will, in the amount of up to $1,500,000. It's a revenue anticipation note that the City of Bastrop has done for the last several years. The purpose is to borrow the funds to pay your current general expenses of operating your city. The interest rate, we have a commitment interest rate on this note is 2.991% per annum, a little bit less than 3% per annum. The security for the note, y'all are pledging the revenues coming into your general fund. Again, the purpose of it is to pay general expenses. The maturity date on the note is not later than March the 1st of next year. Typically, y'all pay that before March 1st. And if there are any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them for you.
Mr. Lawrence, do you need to speak to this issue from last month? I know we had this on the agenda. Is there anything, any clarity that needs to be made?
I concur with everything that Mr. Dixon said. Of course, the Bowles firm has been handling this for the City of Bastrop, and it's something that we do every year. And the revenues that you collect after the end of the year are used to fund this. So it's nothing unusual about it. I recommend that you do it.
Okay, at this time, I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance 094192.
Mayor, second the motion.
Okay, motion and second. Any questions? Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9, Mr. Dixon, the ordinance 094191, an ordinance authorizing the incurring of debt and issuance of a sewer investment bond series. Would you speak to that, please?
I wish I could every meeting. This is such good news for the city of Bastrop. It's a sewer revenue bond. It's part of the U.S. government's stimulus package. And if I'm not mistaken, the city of Bastrop is receiving the second highest amount of money in the state of Louisiana. You have 50 municipalities and 2 parishes. The city of West Monroe is receiving some $4 million. The city of Bastrop, $1 million, roughly $500,000, about $1.5 million. It is a loan that each of you would dream to have. The interest rate on this loan is 0. When the principal is due on this loan, it is forgiven. So you pay no interest, you pay no principal. For all the world, you would call it a grant, but because of the particular method of dispensing this money from the federal government, the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality is calling it a loan because they are set up to administer loans. They're not set up to administer grants, if you will. So we're calling it a loan. We can't use the word grant, but that's basically what it is. Again, it's a sewer revenue bond, $1,510,550. It is coming through the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality to be used for your sewer system.
Thank you for that presentation, Mr. Dixon. At this time, I will entertain a motion on ordinance 094191.
I'll make a motion.
Properly motion
Second.
and second. Any questions? Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Dixon.
Thank you.
Item number 10, we have a presentation by Ms. Sharon Swanson and her assistant, HSM Architects, Master Land Use Plan, an update. She has a very interesting presentation that gives us a preview of our city. So at this time, would you introduce yourself? And
I'm Sharon Swanson with MHSM Architects in Shreveport, Louisiana. We are an architecture and urban planning firm. And this is Caroline Majors, also a planner, city planner with our firm. And we're happy to be here with you today, Mayor and Councilman, to give you an update of the work that we have done to date. We have been working for some time. One of the things that we have been taking a great deal of time doing in the community is working with the assessor's office and Ernest and such to really get a proper base map for the community. And this is data that it's public data. It is data that will all be handed over to you electronically so that the city will be able to use this and have their own mapping data resources at their disposal in the future. So this has been, I think, a wise investment in terms of the long term for all of you. Let's just begin. As I mentioned, we have been hired by the City of Bastrop under the previous administration to prepare a master land use plan for the City of Bastrop and to proceed from there to preparing a zoning ordinance. One of the, I guess, some of the impetus for doing this was as part of, I guess as much in terms of promoting economic development for the city and neighborhood preservation. That there are perhaps uses that are occurring in neighborhoods that are detrimental to property values in neighborhoods. and so to take a look at that. And that because of the lack of zoning, that there are perhaps retail establishments or other business establishments that do not look to Bastrop or are hesitant perhaps of coming to Bastrop because of the lack of zoning regulations. They want to make sure that if they invest in this community, that their investment will be protected by having compatible uses around their property. So basically, you know, as part of our master land use plan, we plan to answer 3 basic questions. What is the state of Bastrop today, which is part of what we will discuss with you? What does Bastrop want to be in the future? And those are our next step, is to engage the community in terms of determining what the community would like to see for Bastrop in the future. And then we'll take that information and try to develop a roadmap of how to get there with the land use. There are several plan implementation tools that come out of a master land use plan. As I mentioned, we have been contracted to develop zoning regulations for your consideration to help implement the master land use plan. But also there are subdivision regulations and a capital improvement program. For example, perhaps the master land use plan can help guide where you will make your investments in roads and streets and sewer so that they're more strategic and lever further private development. So that's one of the roles that the master land use plan can play. As I said, we're going to kind of present today what is the state of Bastrop today, and that's the information that we will be providing to you is from the census information and also from land use survey work that we have done. We've done this citywide, that looked at data, and we've looked at certain geographic areas of the community as part of this assessment. And one of our conclusions is that there's a great deal of diversity in Bastrop. There's areas of the community where you would find a sufficient amount of owner-occupied home, but you also find some rental complexes. Everything's not segregated, and that's in some ways, if handled properly, can be a true strength to having, you know, a mixed income and a mixed use community. Many communities are trying to move more in that direction as they're finding it to be a more user-friendly retail businesses closer to where people live, et cetera. So let's look at Bastrop as a whole. As you know, over the last several decades, Bastrop has lost population. So have many of the other cities in Louisiana. You are not unique. You are not alone in that. And you know, as we look forward, you know, we look at is that there's many ways to grow. Bastrop may for some time be a smaller community than it was back in 1980, but that there's other ways for this community to grow. And the idea is, how can we be perhaps a smaller but more prosperous community? You know, can you raise the income levels of the residents that are here? Can you raise the quality of life in the neighborhoods of the residents that are here? And in the long run, make yourself a more stable community. So those will be things that we will be looking at. When you look at, again, that population change, as you can see with Monroe and Morehouse Parish, that the curves are the same. Bastrop has lost on a percentage basis, slightly more, but again is not unique in that respect. So these are sort of the factors that we look at. I'm going to go. You should have these before you, so I'm not going to go into great detail. I'm just going to let you know this is the information that we're looking at as we move forward, and then discuss with you what some of the conclusions are from looking at all of this. As you can see from this map, the west side of town is a more dense population. If you look at the land use lots, you'll see that the lots are much smaller, so that, in other words, there's more houses per acre on the west side of town. However, it's also an area where there's an increase of vacant lots. But it's something that for us to look at. When you have that increased population density, you look at, are there the appropriate services in proximity to that population base. So, do we need to look at opportunities for retail and commercial development to serve that higher density population base on the west side of town? We also look at areas that might have special needs. For example, we will look at age, those that are under 18, those who are 65 and over. Please note on this that in your population spectrum, you have a higher percentage of younger people than is true for Morehouse and in particularly for the state, and a higher percentage of elderly people. However, your percentage of elderly people as part of your larger population is decreasing. Your median age is, again, younger than elsewhere for the parish or for the state. So one thing that we, while many areas of the state have lost population, they also have an increasing aging population in their community. And so your advantage is you have this larger, younger population than you might find elsewhere in the state. And that is a base from which to grow in the future if you can hold on to this younger population. So I think things like the truancy program and such is a way to hold on to that educated workforce for yourselves and to build there and keep those young people here in the community. We look at, again, geographically, we look at where the elderly population is and how that might affect land use decisions. We look at these special needs areas. We look at, are there the services that are needed to serve these special need populations in proximity to where they are living. We look at things such as poverty status for individuals. Again, probably not a great surprise is that Bastrop has a high level of poverty, slightly higher than Morehouse and slightly higher than Louisiana. But again, not overly different than areas such as Monroe, Shreveport, and such. Slightly higher, but not different dramatically. In order to look at that geographically, we looked at median incomes, and so this reflects, again, median income in the area. Again, to look at special needs in the next slide, we looked at percent of female head of households without a husband present with young children. Again, just looking at these special needs and whether the services are located in proximity to these populations. And that's one thing that we'll look at with a master land use plan. And then looking at households who may not have a vehicle, and that affects, can they again, are these services that they have special needs with, are they accessible to them when they do not have access to transportation? We look at housing as part of our analysis. And in the analysis, overall in Bastrop, that you're primarily a single-family town. There are rental complexes, but you're primarily, single-family homes, even in your rental properties. Again, with the decreasing population, there's been little new housing that has been constructed in the last 20 years or so. 80% of your housing stock has been built prior to 1980, and so your housing stock is 30 to 40 years or older. We looked at housing occupancy, and this is one slide that I want to take a moment and take a look at. Just as you have a loss of population, there has been a loss of housing units. There have been a loss of 110 units between 1990 and 2000. However, there was a loss of 394 owner-occupied units. But at the same time, there was an increase of rental properties. So what that really means is that the housing units that have been, I guess, torn down, one would say, have been owner-occupied units, and that there has been some conversion from owner-occupied units to rental units in your community. And I know in previous meetings that I've had with members of the Planning Commission, there's been discussion about property owners who have lived here and either parents have passed away or the children have moved away and have converted that property to rental ownership, and how that might affect the stability of neighborhoods. So again, those will be issues that we'll be looking at as we look more specifically into neighborhood areas. So again, we looked at it on it. We will be looking at it in a geographic area. We'll be looking at vacant units on a geographic area based upon census data. We will be looking at median housing value. Again, you know, what areas have a higher housing value than others? Have there been changes in those areas that would reflect whether an area is undergoing change or transition? And we've looked at median gross rent values, again, just to see how that might be reflected differently from neighborhood to neighborhood. And then we also have looked at the percentage of people who've moved in 1970 or before. Basically, what you're looking at here is, one, whether there's some stability from long-term residents, but also sometimes in areas with long-term residents, they're open to generational changes as elderly people move into other housing options and younger families move into the neighborhood. So after looking at all of it, and again, this is just the census data, this is sort of our analysis. We looked at what we considered to be, based upon the 2000 census data, and it may have changed since, it's been 9 years since, and we'll see if our land use survey matches this analysis. But these are areas we identified as areas of stability. In other words, they represent the average indicators of the larger community or higher. And so they're areas that may have a couple of special needs, might have some elderly housing or elderly populations that need special needs, but generally are holding their own. And then we have identified areas of transition. And these are areas that are maybe, you know, right around average, maybe slightly less than the average indicators for the community in terms of income or owner occupancy rates or median home values and that sort of thing. And so these are those areas that you know, perhaps with some immediate intercession could move into a stable area. One area, sort of, in our opinion, to pay attention to would be in this, I guess, southwest corner, based again on census data, that it might be, of all of these areas, might be the most sensitive. And then we identified what we call revitalization areas. And these are areas that might have higher proportions of either rental housing, lower home values, lower median values, perhaps higher percentages of elderly or higher percentages of female-headed households. So these are areas where we need to look at special services and special plans to see what can be done to, I guess, interject either resources or programs in order to bring these areas, I guess, stem the decline in these neighborhoods. And if you look at these neighborhoods areas, they're the same areas in our land use plan that you see a growing, increasing number of vacant lots. But once again, those increasing number of vacant lots provide opportunities, and we still do have a fairly dense population in this area. So it still provides opportunities, so it's just a matter of trying to figure out how to take advantage of those opportunities as they're presented. And we probably don't need to stay on this slide because I can show you better from this map because it's more current and more complete. We have driven every street in Bastrop. And because we have the parcel map through this geographic information system, we have been able to catalog what the land use is on every parcel of property in the city of Bastrop. And from this, we will match it against this census data to see if it indeed aligns with it in terms of these areas in need of revitalization, the stability of the areas, and such. And so we've classified, you know, properties with single-family properties, properties with mobile homes, how many mobile homes are on a lot, properties that are industrial, properties that are, you know, commercial and such. And so once again, what we'll see is we see this density of lots in the western portion of the community. We see an increasing vacancy rate on those lots where houses have been torn down. We see this, in terms of a pattern. You certainly have, IP, which, towers, the IP plant, which towers above the city. And we see this strong commercial strip on the east side of town, and in that sort of north-south sector through the downtown area. And then some spotted commercial on the west side. And again, are there opportunities for additional retail on the west side to serve the people living in that area? And so we're going to present just a couple more things that we're beginning to look at. Like I said, we're going to match up that geographic information with this land use information. We're going to look at just a few more factors, and then I'll tell you what our next steps are in terms of the master land use plan. Caroline?
Are there any questions at this point on the Board of Aldermen? Okay.
So another thing that we have looked at hand in hand with the land use is sort of street analysis. And this sort of gives us an idea of the connectivity within the community and how people can sort of move through the community by car or by walking. If you want to go ahead and flip through. So we've looked at primary thoroughfares and sort of the beginning of an outer loop, and where some of your secondary streets are located that would allow people to travel easily through the community. And then we've also looked at, oh, you may not be able to go back, huh? There we go. We've also looked at areas that, where we have some disconnection. So this is a map that highlights each of the dead-end streets in the neighborhood, in the neighborhoods within Bastrop. And these are also opportunities where we have the ability to establish some reconnection, some new connections that can really go hand in hand with a lot of the recommendations that we'll make in terms of land use, because there's certain land uses that you don't want to have on a dead-end street. And it also improves transportation access and safety and that sort of thing when you understand where these areas are. So sort of part of what we've understood from the street system as we have been driving around the city of Bastrop is that these, the north-south rail corridor and these primary arteries that are coming through the city really do sort of divide the city up into these sort of quadrants, and that the downtown core really provides the main connection across and into the other parts of the city. It really is sort of the heart of the city. And so as we maybe look at recommendations in our plan, we would think about how we can strengthen connectivity between these quadrants on the north and south, as well as on these sort of east and west sides, so that we can sort of strengthen opportunities to travel through the city. In addition, we're also considering environmental concerns. We know that floodplains here are especially crucial to consider, so you wouldn't want to propose certain land uses that would encroach on these wetland areas. So all of these things are going to be synthesized, and we're going to sort of look at these things together to make our land use recommendations.
Let me stop you for just a minute. As we were talking earlier today, at some point, I believe the council members would like to look at the quadrants where their district is positioned, and that way they can get a preview of the concentrated need in their particular district.
Yes, in addition to this census information, what we could easily do, because I'm assuming it would be very easy. In fact, we may have the boundaries for the council districts through the information provided by the assessor's office, but if not, we could even take this land use map and create a map of each council district.
Okay, that'd be great.
And
Thank
cut
you.
it out of that so that you would see all the parcels and all the land uses within your district. So that's something that we would be able to do.
Thank you.
So let me just, I guess, kind of conclude by talking about some of the potential issues that we see arising in out of the analysis that we've done to date. And one is the need for neighborhood and property value preservation. I mean, as you know, when someone invests in their own home, that's one of the largest personal investments that they make. And it's important that a community have a certain amount of protections that allows somebody to maintain, retain that investment in their home. And that's what a master land use plan and a zoning ordinance allows. It's sort of a balance between, you know, I know there's that sense of, you know, it's my property and I should be able to do whatever I want with it. It's sort of a balance between being able to do what you want to the extent that you don't negatively impact your neighborhood, your neighbor's investment. And so an ordinance helps to balance that, allows you enough discretion to do what you can with your property, but not to the point that you negatively affect the investment of the properties surrounding you. And so it spells out many of the ways in which to achieve that balance. So that's what we'll be looking at with neighborhood and property value preservation, as well as strategies to improve some of these revitalization areas and transitional areas that we've presented to you today. We'll look at new housing development opportunities. You know, there's probably some drive for housing to move out into the parish rather than to have new housing constructed within the city limits of Bastrop. Well, we want to develop policies and strategies and present ideas that will encourage people to choose to live in the proper corporate limits of Bastrop. And where are vacant properties? Where can we assemble perhaps some vacant properties in these communities and encourage, through development incentives, new housing construction in some of these older neighborhoods? We'll look at mobile homes, and you know, there's certainly mobile homes are a housing choice, but you know, perhaps look at how many is too many on a lot. You know, how should a mobile home be sited on a lot in a way that is similar to a single-family home, and you know, is skirted, and things of that nature, and just things that enforce that. You know, as mobile homes are a choice, how do we make it to, again, where it helps support the neighborhood and where the regulations are such that it doesn't allow it to pull down the neighborhood? How many is too many? Transportation and circulation, as we mentioned, looking at some of the dead-end streets. You know, and we were talking about crime. You know, are some of those dead-end streets, not necessarily all of them, but are some of those dead-end streets creating these no-man lands that can be hangout places? I don't know. That's something we would want to investigate. Is there a way for us to connect up some of these dead-end streets so that you actually increase the safety of your neighborhoods by allowing cars and people to circulate? Not too much, but just occasional. Keep eyes on those streets. And also, how do we maybe, by providing more connections, reduce some of the traffic on your major arterials through your community? And then business opportunities. You know, you have a great hospital here, but you know, is there a way where maybe if we made a medical district around the hospital, that would become an even greater business asset to this community, because it's kind of moved and sprawled in little pieces, but maybe there's a way that we can you could create a medical district in your community. So are those business opportunities, as well as along your commercial corridors? What business opportunities exist there? And we'll certainly be working in conjunction with Thai America and getting their advice on business opportunities that they see in terms of land use into the plan. And your downtown Main Street or your historic district, you know, it's one of the unique features of your community. Not every small community has a square or a core that's, you know, even though it could use more help, but one that's as vibrant as it is. And so it's a good, unique identifier for people to associate with the positive aspects of Bastrop. And so how can we enhance it? How can we build upon that? And of course, then quality of life. You know, through landscaping on the streets, through signage, through improved parks, and more things such as that. Is there a way to increase the quality of life in your community? But if so, what our next step to do is we have several. We will be formalizing the Planning Commission. We have 2 prior planning commissioners that moved up to the City Council. And so we've never yet, while we've been working over the last several months, been able to formalize the Planning Commission, I think, where they've taken their oaths and have a chairman and set their regular meeting agenda. So we will be doing that on August 31st, where we will be formalizing that Planning Commission so that we can really take the next steps, because it requires a Planning Commission to adopt the Master Land Use Plan. So it really does have to be in place. It really does have to be up and running in order for us to proceed. We will then proceed with both, and we hope to do this in September, with community-wide meetings and working group visioning meetings. So that's when we would be asking the community, and we would be taking them through a set of exercises, working with us to determine what is it you want the future of Bastrop to be. You know, how can we make it better? You know, and these are, you know, we really want great ideas, and so we'll be coming out to the community, and we'll be working with people who have specific knowledge in certain areas to get that information. And when we do that, one of the steps that we will be taking in the interim is we will be doing some further analysis. We'll probably prepare a map that shows all the vacant property in the community so that we can look at what those opportunities might be. And we'll do some brainstorming of ourselves of what some of those opportunities might be, and we'll just do it in a real sketch way. You know, you wouldn't be committed to it, but just to show people perhaps some ideas of what you maybe could envision, and try to get some feedback on that at these set of meetings that we'll be holding. And so shortly after we're able to get that from the citizens of the community, because it is going to be their land use plan, it is going to be their zoning ordinance. They are the ones that are going to have to live by it and abide by it, and you all will have to be the ones to adopt it. We will draft the land use plan, and from there, once we have reached agreement on that with the Planning Commission, we will begin to draft the zoning ordinance that implements that land use plan. And so certainly one of the ways in which we will need the council's assistance is when we schedule this community-wide meeting, again, hopefully in September. We really do want everyone to show up, as many people as can to show up to that meeting. And we'll plan the logistics for it accordingly. But we can probably even get you flyers for it or something like that to distribute, but for you to encourage the people that you know who live in your districts to attend, to let them know that we really want to hear their ideas. And that no idea is, you know, a bad idea. You know, it all adds to the greater whole. And we want to hear also what people's concerns are, but really what their hopes and dreams and ideas are for the future, because that's what this is about, is the future and creating a better Bastrop, a more beautiful Bastrop for the future. So if there's any questions or about the steps that we're going to take, or about the information that we're going to present, or what we've presented so far, I'm open. I'm welcome.
Council members, are there any questions?
Is there any information on truck routes around our town?
Yeah, we have. We did. Are you talking in relationship to I-69? And they did a study on or a preliminary study on a bypass related to I-69. We did We did investigate the status of that route. We do have a general map of the route that was studied, but we were informed by the Department of Transportation that that study is not moving forward any further in its analysis because their conclusion was that there was insufficient vehicular demand for the bypass. Now, that doesn't mean, in terms of your overall circulation around the corporate limits or just outside the corporate limits of Bastrop, that we won't look at that street network and how or what are some of those bypass routes around town, and what roads could be improved in order to encourage truck traffic to bypass the core of town and to sign those as truck routes. So that was, certainly something we see as an issue or something to think about, something to address in this master land use plan.
All right, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? Thank you so much for that presentation, and we look forward to more presentations as we finalize the plan.
Well, we like working here in Bastrop. As I said, we've driven down every street of Bastrop, and we've grown to appreciate it. And the people living here, we have been welcomed, and everyone is very, very friendly and very open. And so we've become fond of Bastrop. So we care about these next steps and about helping to, I guess, in some ways, translate what your vision for the future of Bastrop is. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. Okay. Item number 11, Kay King, Morehouse Economic Development.
I'd like to add that that was really a great program, and that we have to know our product, that when we try to sell Bastrop, we have to know what we're trying to sell, and this is a great program that we can sit and analyze things and see what our strengths and weaknesses are and determine how we want to move forward. So I appreciate all of the work that this group has done in the community. I've talked several times with Sharon. And I know what everybody, when I come up to the front, everybody kind of wants to know, well, what are we working on to bring any jobs? And we have had some interest in some things that might develop. I'd like to say, 2 years ago, that we have a building, that the city has a building located at 9100 Industrial Drive. It's on the corner. It's the old Formalizing building, and it's the old City Spec building. And it was leased for 2 years, and many people didn't know that there was anybody in the building because they never put up a sign. But it has been leased for 2 years, and it was a very good lease because they paid a market rate rent on that building. And unfortunately, the business that the company had here did not develop like they thought, so that building is available now. And I have been contacted by a startup business, and I'd like to just put this out to the City Council tonight, that we have in the past used that building as sort of a business incubator for startup business, that we would offer a lower rate rent, an initial lower rate of rent coming in, and as they build the business up, we would design some type of step program to step a business up. This is a non-competing business, and I'd like to stress that many people don't understand that when I work with companies, that we can do more for companies that do not compete with our existing businesses. If you have a business that is competing with your neighbor, that we don't discourage those businesses from coming into town, but we don't offer any kind of special incentives to businesses that would create an unlevel playing field for existing businesses that we have in the community. So when I work with companies, I work with anyone who comes into town and try to give them the best information that I can. But I often, when we have a startup business, something that does not compete with area businesses, that we are in a position that we can offer these companies some special incentives to come into the building. And I hope as this develops that I'll give you a little bit more information about this. I just kind of want to prepare you because I know that council's new, and I know Mayor Olive has been here a few times when I brought entrepreneurial startup businesses in. So I'll be trying to put together a project for that. I appreciate the work that we have a lot of people in the community that help me. I know that Mr. Floyd has answered some questions about connectivity with the internet in our industrial park, and so we're going to try to move forward with that. And I hope to be bringing you something. This month, I did send out a packet through the North Louisiana Regional Partnership. That's the new group that has developed and tied into the whole North Louisiana from here west to the Shreveport area. And they requested information on buildings, and the type of building that they were looking for was very similar to the liquid packaging plant. And I did forward that information on to them for a prospect for that building. And so that's another part of what I do, is that I'm the contact for those. And I just want to kind of bring something back into the program that we just saw, that how we know that the population of Bastrop has been declining. And although I work primarily in the economic development realm, one of the assets that I've seen is the number of people who have been interested and have come back to this area. So a project that I've been really working a little bit on, I've been trying to get it going for the last year, is to bring into the community a hometown connection, and that's going to be a program where we're going to try to keep contact with people that have moved out of the area, people who may be in that retirement age or getting close to retirement age, that may be looking for second careers and possibly be looking at maybe starting a small business as they're getting older, and to bring new ideas back into the community from where they have moved, these people that we've lost. And by making these connections through getting rosters of alumni associations, family reunions, that we can develop a database of possible people that are interested in coming back into the community and bringing some of those resources and some of that talent and experiences from a wide range of places back into this community. And I am fortunate enough to have someone working in our office right now to help me with that, and she's putting together that database. So if anyone has a roster for particularly class reunions, that's the best ones, I think, that we're looking for those, and that we're going to assemble this database, send out small newsletters, possibly mail them newspaper periodically, or even do a card that maybe features a home that's for sale in the area, get one of our local real estate people to possibly help us with some printing costs to feature a home that's for sale. And by doing this, we do hope that we'll generate some interest in bringing people back into the community. And I would like to say that I had attended a program back in July from the Louisiana Industrial Development Executives Association on real estate development, and I was provided a scholarship by the Louisiana Electrical Co-op to attend that meeting, and I plan on being at another meeting, unfortunately, on the next council day. So we'll be looking at business retention and expansion, and it will be dealing some specific things, dealing with plant closures and some things like that I think are very worthwhile. So I won't be at the next city council meeting. I regret to say that. I just wanted to go ahead and say that that's what I will be doing next month. So I think that's worthwhile, and that's pretty much all I have. I know this is a long agenda, so I don't want to take too long. But are there any questions from the city council or Mayor Olive?
Any questions for Ms. King?
Okay, thank you
for that in-depth report. Item number 12, Brent Elton, airport update.
Good evening. How are y'all?
Good evening.
Really about the only thing to let you know about the airport right now that we have going on that's very significant is our perimeter fence project, which will be starting up by the end of this month. The contractor has agreed to a start-by date of August 31st. As of yet, we haven't received a timeline or a timetable of the project, but we're expecting that within the next week, maybe 2 at the most. And at the next City Council meeting, I'll be able to give you a better idea of what's going on, because actually the construction should have started by then. But they do have, from the time that they start, 60 working days to complete the project. So we're hoping that, I would guess by the end of October, we should have the perimeter fence completed. And that would be really great to have that done before the end of the year. Does anyone have any questions about fencing project at all?
Any questions? Okay.
No? Okay. At the next City Council meeting, I'll let you guys know if we've run into any problems and let you know where they stand, what the status is.
Good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elton. Item number 13, Reverend L.H. McCullough. Would you speak your name, your address, and state your business?
I'm L.H. L.H. McCullough, and we live at 487 Orion. And I just wanted some answers to some questions, if I may. Let me say to start with, I am not complaining. In fact, I voted for the people who are now serving in your capacity, all of them that I could. And I've known William, since he was a little boy. And then I voted for you, as I told you. So I'm not fussing, but I want to get some information. What is the status of our new street construction? Can anybody bring us up to date on that and why we're not involved in the repair of our streets?
Okay. We had a presentation. Mr. McKee, is he still here? Yeah. Would you come and do a briefing, please? We had an update with the council members, Reverend McCullough, so I'll allow Mr. McKee to speak to that issue, in that this was a project that was initiated prior to my assuming this role as mayor.
Okay. While he's coming, let me ask this other question. It'll probably be simple. Who is responsible for notifying the people of the community that don't mow the yard? For 2 years, I took care of the one next door to my property. And now we've got people living there, and they're doing a great job. But between here and our street, there's an awful lot of yards that are not mowed. There's trash on the roads. And I'm just wondering who's in charge of that now. I knew Mr. Martin used to be.
Is it a vacant lot?
No. The people living there.
They live there?
Yeah, they just don't mow the yard.
Okay. Would you call the office and give the specifics on that, and let's avoid calling any names or?
All right, your office?
Yes.
Okay.
You may call the office and we will make an assignment to see what we need to do, if we can do something legally.
All right. Well, while we're here, let me go ahead and finish my list of things here. I have a question about why we don't follow the lead of our state. When they mow the grass, they pick up the trash before they mow the grass. We mow the grass, and our trash is scattered all over the place. And one of the things that I want to suggest to all of you, I think is a great idea. I don't know if you like it or not. But if you would drive every street that's in your district and see what's going on in the city. Now, some of us preachers think we can pastor a church by sitting in the office, but you can't do it that way. You've got to know what's going on in our community. And the best way to do that is get out there and just drive about once a month up and down every street that's in your district and see what's going on. And when you get on our street, we've got a hole about this big. Be careful when you turn off of the main drag onto that street. And I said to somebody, and I've forgotten who I was talking to at the time, if I could find a place where I could get about 5 gallons of asphalt, I'd fix that hole. It's been there for a long time. All right? Come tell us.
Mayor, do you want me to do a complete presentation or just cover the streets that we have?
I think if you give an update based on what we've done and where we are, I believe that will answer Reverend McCullough's question. Thank you.
Okay. We started in the northeast section of town, and we did approximately 7 miles of streets in the northeast section of town. That would be west of Washington and north of East Madison. In the area of McWright, I'll name a few streets: Montgomery, Solomon Lane, Level. The next section is in the northwest section of town. I briefed the council on it earlier, and it's in the area of Highland, Forest, part of Cypress, Cary, Huey. That would be west of North Washington and north of West Madison. That's what's on the drawing board. Of course, at this time, it wouldn't be feasible to do Highland and Forest because school's getting ready to start back. It would interrupt the flow of school buses and school traffic. And what we've done in the past, we've leveraged some of the monies that we've collected in sales tax along with LCDBG grants, Louisiana Community Development Block Grant. I had a lapse in memory there for a minute. And that enabled us to spread the tax dollars a little further. We got $400,000 from an LCBG grant from the state of Louisiana, and we put that with our money, which was approximately $1,023,000, and the state put up $400,000 to do approximately 3.74 miles of streets. And in that same section, we spent $1,156,170.60 of the regular street tax money, for a combined total of $2,179,000. Now, of course, we didn't have that money. We borrowed it. And we borrowed approximately $3 million, of which we've made 4 payments of $375,000, which is approximately half of the money we've borrowed. And I'll entertain any questions if I haven't covered anything.
Reverend McCullough, did that answer your question?
The income to pay that note, do we have any in surplus or?
Yes, sir.
We do? Okay.
We have approximately $1.5 million in surplus.
That's to be used on these other streets?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is it good to hold that money or to pay back what we borrowed? Are we paying interest on the money that we borrowed and we have money in hand, or what's the plan with that?
Ms. Goldman?
Yes, sir, we are paying interest on it.
All right.
And what we do is we collect our sales tax, we're just putting it in the bank, building it up so we're ready for the next phase. So whenever the council's ready to go with the next phase, we'll have some money to do that with.
All right. How is the bank compared to what you're paying on borrowed money? Are the
don't know
bank
what the
paying
rates
you
are now.
the equal, at least, are we coming out even, is what I'm asking?
I'm not sure. I don't know what the going rate would be for that then. It was set up when we borrowed the money back 4 years ago at this rate and how to pay it back.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me ask. Now, I have one final question. What is the status of the new hand that's getting a lot of publicity? And we're not sure, I'm not sure, maybe others that are. What is the purpose of this person's job in our city? And I'm speaking of my fellow Mississippian, also a graduate of the same college, but I don't know him personally. But can you say something to us about that?
I'm going to defer that to our city attorney.
Mayor, you want me to provide, consistent with what the notice we provide to the
Yes,
council
sir.
on today? Shortly before the council meeting commenced tonight, notice of termination of the contract with Comer Investments was furnished to Mr. Comer, calling for termination of his contract immediately or in accordance with the advance notice terms in Section 4 of his contract.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Item number 14, hay cutting at airport and industrial park, permission to advertise for bids. Ms. Goldman?
Yes, Mayor, this here is the property that's located at the airport and also at the industrial park that is only the land that the city of Bastrop owns. We go out for bids, and an individual will bid with the proper documentation, and they will bid, and instead of us mowing this property, the company or the individual that bids on it will pay us so much per round bale or square barrel, ever how he built. And we'll do this, the last contract that Mr. Lawrence drew up, I think was a 2-year contract, and it was renewed annually upon agreement of both parties. So in case he says different, we'll probably go that same route.
Okay. You need
Yes,
action on this?
I will need a motion to accept, to grant us to advertise for permission to go out for bids.
I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion.
Properly motion. Second.
I second.
Any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 15, citizens' comments. Yes, sir? You have to stand. You have to state your name, your address, and your purpose.
Okay, the name is Sherman.
You have to come to the microphone, sir.
The mayor, councilmen, my name is Sherman Tyler, 1209 Bryant Street. Can I ask you a question? How many minutes do I have?
What is your subject that you want to speak on, Mr. Tyler?
I'm going to get general and Pacific. I'm going to cover everything.
Well, when you say everything, we
I mean,
do
within a
need to
number
be
of minutes
specific.
that I have, I'm going to brief on
Would
each.
you go ahead and state your business, please?
Okay, first I want to talk to the councilmen, especially Councilman District B. Do you have any goals for the district? Do you have any projects for the district? Do you have any plans? You personally?
All the above. Before I go into detail, I cannot go into at this present.
Okay, I'd like to see something in writing in the future.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Mr. Tyler, I believe the land use plan and the economic development speaks to those areas of interest to you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your comments.
That was it? That's my
Okay,
time?
any other specific comments you have?
No, I'm gonna let's close it out.
Okay, thank you. Citizens' comments.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Aldermen.
Would you state your name and your business?
Boo Robinson. I live at 1617 Gladney Drive here in Bastrop. I came here tonight to talk to you about a problem, but you just answered it, and I want to tell you that I am proud of you and the council for the stand that you made with Mr. Comer.
I believe at this point we need to discontinue any conversation.
Mayor, if you don't mind, and good evening, Mrs. Robinson. Because of the open meetings law, we're constrained, I guess, from getting into details about why.
Okay, I'm not asking why. Yes. I just wanted to tell you that I do thank you for the stand that you've made, because I was here to ask you to do exactly that, and if I'm not wrong in saying that, because I had faith in you as the mayor and the new city council, that y'all would do the right thing, and I did not want this to harm your political career, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
Yes. Good evening, and thank you for letting me come before this group. And I won't get into anything that you don't want me to get into, but I came for the same reason Boo Robinson came. And Mr. Moore, I sat in your seat for 16 years. And this is the first time I've been back to the city council in 20 years, because the mayor and the city council did a real good job taking care of city business, mine and everybody else's. And I never found a reason to have to come. And I was so concerned tonight. This is why I'm here. So now I'm going to say thank you for doing what's right, and I want to change my directions. You know, we're going to build the horse pavilion, as I call it. Boots calls it something else, out there on the 20 acres. And I would like for you, your members, to come and drive that little Jenny Lynn Street that comes around the fairgrounds out there. I think it was built for a four-wheeler, but automobiles drive on it. And if you can imagine these big horse trailers and trucks and things that's going to have to come on that little street. I think part of it's in the city and part of it may be in the parish, but I don't care if we have to go to the state. That little street's got to be fixed before the building out there gets built. And I appreciate you people, and my respect has been restored. Thank you.
Are there any other... any question, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.